our classes. Um, and Juan and I actually discussed uh, what would be more appropriate moving forward, whether or not, you know, because Juan has been taking the first part of the class, and I've kind of been following him up. And we discussed whether or not I should take the first part of the class and he would follow up um, in the latter part, the second part of the class. We do have Juan. Hi, Juan.
Hola, Adam.
Are you awake? You don't look awake, sir.
Barely,
Are you doing dream yoga?
something like that.
um, um, so I was just saying that I've gotten used to Juan giving us some morning commentary and helping us roll right into the class. Um, Juan does an amazing job. He's really loose, and sometimes I could be rigid. So I always appreciate Juan helping us start our class. It feels more loose that way. Um, Juan had I believe Juan's been preparing some things.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And sorry, today I run a little late. I
it's totally fine.
but I want to make sure everybody in the tech table has what they need. I see some hands up, but I think everybody's set up, no? You can type in the chat if I'm missing anyone, please. But I think all the permissions, all the
Andreas.
translators, good to go. I think so. So yeah, I was thinking about that idea, Adam, as well. Like we can alternate sometimes because what I feel is like sometimes it takes much longer than I thought, and then
Mm.
maybe that you don't have the chance to expand so thoroughly on what you wanted. So we
Can
can
I
keep
be
talking about the idea of maybe
mhm.
some days you start the first section, but
Can I be
release.
entirely honest with everyone here? I haven't had well, I feel like so in about in 1 week, um, I have to present what I've been translating. So I'll have my class in about a week. So I've been putting a little bit more effort into my translation and preparing homeworks and things like that. Um, I still have some interesting things I feel like to share with you guys. But one, I think it's perfectly fine if maybe I could just help put sprinkles on your cake. Yeah,
Okay, okay, okay.
yeah.
Cool. All right. So there is also some other thing I wanted to start doing yesterday. It came to me this idea because we have been gathering for over 10 weeks now, a little more than that. I think this is the 12th
Wow.
or 11th.
I think it's
We're,
probably, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
getting close to 3 months. And what I thought is like it would be also good to start getting to know each other as a group. And then I thought like I want to invite open the invitation. So every session, maybe two or three people, maybe two or three, maybe we'll see. If they want to present themselves, introduce themselves, maybe like a 5 minute presentation. You can do also even like PPTs.
That's what
Remember
I
how
was. Yeah,
Adam made a PPT
yeah.
when we had the presentation in Japan about a little bit of his life, what he does, where he lives, what he eats, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I was thinking it would be nice to get to know each other as a group because, to be honest, there are some people that I don't know that well. And I'm guessing among, like, not only I don't know them that well, but we each other, maybe
Mhm.
some people that I don't know, they live somewhere else and we don't know them. So to encourage the group to, in the chat, we could, make like a list kind of thing and take turns to introduce ourselves. I think Adam and I can do it also,
Yeah.
as just to kind of don't say that we don't want to do the embarrassing parts. We'll do them too. And then maybe that helps to create some kind of feeling of collaboration, familiarity. I think it could be good for the group. The reason why is because I realize there is a lot of people, pretty much like all of us, that are doing very good things, very amazing things, but sometimes we don't know each other. And it's like I know the same, I don't know, 50 people, but the worldview network is really growing and there is a lot of people doing amazing things. So I think it's nice now that a lot of classes happen online. In the old days, they happen live. So we had the chance to get to know each other as group. Now that happen online, it would be nice to also get like know each other. Who are you? What's your name? What are you doing? What do you like and what you don't like? Maybe, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know if you agree and you like the idea, Adam, we could try that.
I think that's beautiful, man. It's been 3 months, and in 3 months from now, we'll be looking back and saying it's been 6 months, and we'll have spent a lot of time together. So yeah, I think it's probably good.
Yeah, and then that also will save us time because then people can present. We don't have to present that long. Just kidding. But also my idea at some point was eventually it will be cool if some people who feel brave enough and you want to present like a small topic, participants of this session can also present like, I don't know, let's just say whatever, right? Like Lena wants to present about definitions
Mhm.
and Ola wants to present about synonyms and
Mhm.
Milan wants to present about contradiction, just to say, right?
Mhm.
And then maybe every session, one of the students gets a chance to have a segment where they present and becomes more like a really interactive and inclusive session. But we'll see. I think there is
Inshallah.
someone more that would like to be a translator. I'm checking. Every translator is in this boot. Ola is not in the boot. Okay. Text me in the chat if anybody else needs tech services. Okay, so I'm just gonna start right away, catching up with the topic I left last time. Mm, time goes very fast and more if I talk about other things, but I think it will help the overall
Mhm.
fun and engagement of the project. So I'll share with you what I have and where we stopped last time. And I want to show you what I did as a kind of encouragement to see. So you try this and see if you like it, if it's good for you. This is a great exercise that helps me. So I'm just sharing and showing it you so you see if it helps you. Okay, so we were talking about the debates last session. And what I did this time is like I started adding notes to myself. So how do I go through them and the kind of notes I do to keep myself in track? Sometimes debates, these are the beginning of the first debates, but little by little, what I think is like they start getting more complex, both in logic, but also in content. So by debate number 9, I realized that I start getting lost in the topics, for example. So if I wanted to keep on track, I needed to get the topics clear for myself, right?
Mhm.
Remember, it's often when they say one of the reasons we want to learn to debate is so we are able to debate ourselves, very importantly, especially during hard times or times of doubt, times of uncertainty, learning how to debate ourselves when we are thinking clearly, when we are thinking under the effect of negative emotions. So this is something I do that helps me a lot, and I'll show what I did. So I'll take you a little bit through it. And the red is the notes I was doing, right? Okay. So debate 9. Suppose someone comes and makes the following claim. If something is form, it must be the door of sense of visible form. Okay, so first I had to realize, is this what the person is saying is correct or incorrect? And then I was like, okay, at Jose, as far as I know, because by now, I mean, we all are a little bit familiar with that. So from now on, I think we can always gonna be able to test. There is gonna be some times that we can say, honestly, well, I don't know, to be honest, if it's correct or incorrect. But right here, I can say for me, no, it's incorrect. I can already think of an example that it's form and it's not the sense of visible form in my mind for myself. So because I find my example, I can say, nah, this is incorrect. So I make a note, this is incorrect. But we can see here an important distinction between visible form and form in the context of the 5 hips. This is interesting to me because Geshe a few days ago during Stanley's text, he brought it up and he made the distinction that in these schools, we were talking about Abhidharma, and I'm guessing in a way, I don't know, yeah, let's say we were talking about the lower schools. He say it's important to mention visible form, visible form, that make the distinction between visible form and form. Because when we are talking about visible form, we are talking about a distinction based on the context of the 5 hips. If we just talked about form, it could be the generality of form that includes sounds, taste, smells, and others, or it will indicating that we are talking the context either on the 12 ayatanas or the 18 datus. So anyways, that's something that I learned by playing with these debates. Okay, so all right. For me now, I set my own context. I realize that what we are going to be playing with is visible form versus form in this debate, just to have it clear in my mind. And the first statement is incorrect. So it goes.
Um,
Let's
can we
consider. You're gonna
hey,
say something?
yeah, hey Juan, I was thinking it could be interesting here
Mhm.
to well, there's two things. Um, if we were if we were to start trying to read this, maybe independently here, I could go through and kind of read it so that you can start to get the feeling of how the debates flow, how they
Mhm.
sound.
Mhm.
So if you were on the debate ground and you were working with somebody, how would they sound, right? And then maybe pointing out just where the English and the Tibetan correspond here, you know, what parts, because these are really, if you want to learn a little Tibetan, this is a wonderful text because it's very straightforward and the lines are very short. Um, so you would say kachignare, right? Which means someone, right? Suppose that someone comes along and makes the following claim. Uh, Ka means your mouth, right? Chik means one. Okay. So the way that they used to say this was consider that one mouth comes along and says, which sounds kind of interesting. Um, and then so I'm going to say the line, and if you wanted to practice, um, you could come back to it, or you could try to say it along with me. Uh, Kachignare, tsuk yina, tsuki keche yimbe kyap. And then Serena means, uh, like a claim, right? Like to come along and claim something. So you'd say, Kachignare, tsuk yina, tsuki keche yimbe kyap, right? So that's kind of how it would feel to actually say it as if you were trying to debate with someone. Sorry, I thought it was helpful because when I first started studying this text, I really wanted to learn what it would sound like. How would it feel to be on the debate ground and say these things? So sorry.
Well, no, no, it's good. But
Yeah.
I what I didn't realize is you wanted me to repeat after you, or you were telling
Oh,
the audience to repeat after you.
I guess if you're at home,
Uh-huh.
right? Uh, if as everyone probably is, um, yeah, you could just hear how it would flow, right? And that might give you a good sense for how to read the lines, especially giving you good practice for reading more difficult texts. Uh, so if you want to repeat, um, yeah, you can. And if you want to come back to the recordings later and listen, I think that would also be pretty helpful.
Okay, then it's Drachechen. Suki keche impartal, suk yimpecher.
Yeah.
Yay.
All right.
Okay. And then you say, okay, let's consider
Yeah.
sound. Another thing I want to mention is that once you get familiar with the flow and with the Tibetan,
Hmm.
you realize that there are parts that um, the English has extra steps to
Hmm.
help us understand the flow. The Tibetan, because it's a debate format, very quick, it leaves a lot of things, how to say, to the deduction,
Imagination and yeah.
imagination, or yeah,
Oh,
of the debate. Like you
yeah.
immediately know. Basically, it says here, it says, consider sound. Uh, it is, I suppose, it is,
Hmm.
I suppose it's the sense of visible form because it's form. So
Hmm.
this, for example, this, why do you say that here? It's just an extra element that it's added in the English for us to understand the dynamic inside the debate.
Yeah,
So there are parts like that.
there's so if you were on the debate ground, what they would say is chichir, right?
Mhm.
So why do you say that? And this is really interesting. This is an interesting section to stop on because do you see how I formulated when I translated this? Do you see how the second line? Sorry, I'm
Here,
still waking up a little bit. Yeah. Give me a second until my caffeine kicks in, and I'll probably be doing a little better here in a second. The second line um, can be formed in two ways. You can say it like um, you could say it like this. So, I guess it's the door of sense of visible form, right? Or you could say it is the door of sense of visible form. Okay, so one, you're kind of saying it in a sarcastic way, right? You're saying, oh, so you're saying this stupid thing, which means this, right? Or you could say it like um, in a way in which you're saying that it is true. So you have to think about the second line here. Whenever you see tell at the end of a line, it could mean two things, depending on whether or not you believe it or whether or not you disbelieve it. Whether or not, if it's something you agree with or it's something that you don't agree with. So if you wanted to read this second line, you have to, and this was one of the hardest parts of translating this book. it took me a little while before I got the feeling for it. With the second line, you have to be paying attention to whether or not the author believes it or he doesn't believe it. Okay, whether or not it is our school or whether or not we're attacking somebody who's making a stupid claim. Everybody knows what does everybody know what a telnger is? Or if I say uma telngirwa, it means a person of the consequence school. Okay. So tel can mean consequence. Okay. And this is what we mean when we say prasangika, highest majamika, majamika prasangika, because they use consequences in order to make arguments. And this is a perfect example of a Tengirwa, of what a Tengirwa would say, right? Tsuki keche yimba tel, right? Geshe Michael, if you watch the mixed nuts classes, Geshe Michael is always asking us, um, which way does our tell go? Does it go up or does it go down? Okay. So one of the ways you can practice this, you can say Tsukikeche Yimbatal, right? You see how my voice dropped at the end? Tsukikeche Yimbatal. Or you could say Tsukikeche Yimbatal. Okay. Do you see how the inflection in one way I'm going up and in one way I'm going down?
And which one is which?
Yeah. So if you go down, it means that you don't believe it. It means you're saying, ah, you can hear it in my voice. So it's if you go down, um, it should sound like this. So I guess you're saying that it's the door of sense of visible form, right? If you go up, you're saying, oh, I guess it is the door of sense of visible form, right? In one way, your voice should imply that you mean it. And in another way, your voice should imply that it's a stupid position. Okay. Um, if you watch the mixed nuts classes, um, some of the other translators, uh, and this isn't an attack on them, but they have a hard time identifying that. So Geshe Michael will always ask, which way does the tell go? Okay. And whether or not it's high tone or whether or not it's low tone depends on whether or not the author believes it or not. And that you're only going to understand if you're truly watching the debates from section to section, and you should be able to follow it, right? So it's important. And sorry, Juan, and thank you for slowing down and allowing me to kind of point that out. Um, if we wanted to go through the Tibetan here, and you wanted, sorry, I'm going to stop for a second. One of the reasons that I think it's super helpful to go through and learn how to read these things fluently is because it will get your mind used to speaking Tibetan. Okay. And when you do that, it's much easier to understand how the bigger sections flow. Okay. Because you'll learn if you understand, um, okay, everybody say keche,
Quieche.
keche, right? Do you see skye and mched, right? Keche.
Here. Here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So you have this word keche, but if you don't know how to read the sentence, you might think that those were two separate words. Okay. And they are two separate words. But one of the important things about learning how to read Tibetan is to understand which one of these syllables go together. Okay. You see what I'm saying? So if you like draw, I say draw, right? It's the first word. It means sound. Okay. Churchin. Okay. And whenever you say churchin, Geshe Michael always taught me to say churchin. You have to kind of stretch it out and you want to put emphasis on it when you're debating. And that's usually when you're drawing back and you actually come in to clap, you do it right here. Okay. Draw churchin, right? So now you look at the second line, tsuk, right? Tsuk is form. Okay. Ki of, right? So keche. So this is where you see the door of sense of visible form. Okay. So suki keche is door of sense of visible form. Yen here means is. Okay. And this partel. Um, so yimpa. Okay. Yimpa means it is. And then the R right there is a suffix letter. And I think we'll go over the more finer details of what that means grammatically as we progress. I don't think we should stop and talk about that one right now. And you see the last line here. In between the second line and the last line, um, this is where Juan was pointing out. Why do you say that? Okay. And do you see the difference here? One of the lines is italicized. The other lines aren't italicized. So the reason that Geshe Michael and I chose to put some of the lines in italics is because this is what the other person is saying. Okay. So if you see italicized words in this text, it means that this is what the other person is saying. Okay. And in these texts, it's implied. It's actually not in the Tibetan. But if you were on the debate ground, this you would hear chichir, which means why do you say that? Chichir means why. Okay. Um, I know that's probably more detailed than you were expecting, but there's a list of things that I think you could be doing if you really, really wanted to get good at logic and you really, really wanted to get good at debate and you really, really wanted to get good at Tibetan. So those are three beautiful things. You want to get good at debate, right? You want to get good at just basic logic, and you want to get good at with your Tibetan, with your spoken Tibetan and understanding written Tibetan. Um, this text is meant to do that, okay? But you have to put in a little effort, okay? So what I would suggest, as I suggested before, is once again memorizing the definitions and the synonyms, uh, memorizing the classical examples. Okay. And I would recommend going through and reading these debates to yourself. Okay. Earlier in the class, earlier in the classes, I suggested that you memorize the debates. Okay. But if you want to, you can do that. And if not, you don't have to, but at least go through and just read them until you can get fluid, until you feel like it's easy to read them, right? So once again, and I'll show you maybe what that would sound like, okay? And with a little practice, you could do it in a few weeks, okay? But you would just have to spend a little time doing it. Okay, so I'm going to go kind of fast. I'm not going to try to go too fast, but I'm going to go kind of fast to show you what it would sound like. Okay. Kachignare, tsukyena, tsukikeche yimbe kya serna, tra churchin, tsukikeche yimbatel, tsuk yimbe chir. You see what I'm saying? And if you practice doing that, you'll learn to understand which words go together, which words are separate, and you'll also start to learn how to listen to Tibetan, right? Um, so there's a reason why this text is given to monks that are 7 years old. Okay. Juan, can I have just another minute?
Yeah, yeah.
just
Let
one
me
more
know when
minute.
you want, if you want me
Yeah.
to pass to next slide.
Yeah. Um, so when you go to the monastery, okay.
To the Geshe University.
Yeah, sorry. When you go to the yeah, to the Geshe University, um, the monks don't all come from one place. Okay. So monks from many different parts of the Himalayas and many different parts of northern India. um, all they're all they all come to the monastery from different areas, and they speak different languages. Okay, like different dialects of the language. You may have some people that speak Nepali. Okay, but when they come to the university at 7 years old as young monks, they're given this text to memorize because it helps them learn how to speak Tibetan in a way that they will all share, right? And eventually. So you're given this text when you're 7 years old, and you're expected to get familiar with the text over 5 years. Okay. And then that's meant to inform to give you a shared dialect, okay? So that when you're on the debate ground, you're all speaking the same language, okay? Does that make sense, guys? So if you want a text that will help you learn, um, if you want a text that will help you learn Western Chinese, this is a great one to do it, okay? Anyways, that's kind of it's important because I don't think we've gone over any of these things yet. One,
Oh yeah, I think it's
and
good. It's good.
these are all things that Geshe Michael was very, um, when we first started translating this, we spent a lot of time covering what I just said. So
Mhm, mhm. Okay, so should I go to the next slide?
let's see.
Okay, next slide. Uh, I think it's good. Even Adam, if you want to explain the Kiapa
Oh
que,
yeah.
it's
Okay.
the implication, no?
Yeah. So everybody say Kaaba.
Kiapa.
Yeah. So if I say, what's the Kaaba? Or if you wanted to do it in Tibetan, you would say Kaaba Lok. Okay. It means give me the, give me the, give me what's being implied here. Right. Some people would say it's a necessity. Right. So we could say, if I say, if I say that some fruits are oranges, okay, what's the Kaaba there? If I
That,
say that some fruits are oranges, the kaba would mean that some oranges, or excuse me, some fruits are oranges, but not all oranges are. Excuse me.
but not all fruits are oranges.
Yeah, sorry. I'm confusing you guys. Sorry. Uh, yeah, I was just checking to see if you were paying attention, guys. Okay, so what's being implied here, Juan? Can we go back to the last one?
Yeah,
Slide.
yeah.
Okay. So what is being implied from this in this second statement here? Yeah, kaba means pervasion. It does, Andreas. Yeah, that's exactly what it means.
Uh,
Um,
um,
oh,
it
okay.
it
Let,
is it is what it's implied here. Well, is I don't know if it's implied. It's very straightforward, but it's basically saying that form, no, sound is also form. So
mhm.
the implication is that there are examples of form that are not visible form.
Okay, so when you see kabas pop up, I think that's really that's a good that's a good place to slow down and point this out. One, if we could go back to the last slide in 59. Um, so everybody knows you've heard Geshe Michael say one, two, and three because there are three parts of a statement, right? So sound would be one, okay? Being the door of sense of visible form would be two, okay? And form would be three, okay? So when you're trying to understand or to find a kaba of a statement, you're going to be looking at two and three, okay? So if you want to find the kaba, don't even pay attention to number one. It doesn't matter really, okay? So sound here isn't something that we just want to focus on the second and third parts of the statement. Okay. So if you want to find the Kaaba, you would say what's being implied or the pervasion here, okay, would mean that all forms are all all forms are door of sense of visible form. Is that true?
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm, right? So go to the next slide. And you can see, right, why we have the italics here. And it's to help the audience or the reader understand what the Kaaba is and to also understand why um, it is an incorrect statement. Okay. You can't debate if you agree on everything. Okay. Right. So in this text, um, it's you're always disagreeing. Okay. So it's always like a stupid statement that you're fighting, right? Somebody's saying something stupid and you're coming back at them. So they've given a wrong, excuse me, based on the last statement, the last section, this Kaaba is saying this is why your Kaaba is wrong. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. Um, yeah. And K here means like this is what you've said. K means like to say something. Okay. So what you're saying is, but no, this is the Kaaba that you just gave us. You see what I'm saying? Here's what you're implying with your statement. Okay. K means to say something. Kaaba means to give a necessity or pervasion. Okay. Or to say that two things relate in a certain way. Translators, I'm sorry. I'm trying to speak slowly, but I'm also sorry for some of the language. Um, So, um, remember we were looking at the Kaaba from section 59, and now can you see here in italics that it's exactly what we said it would be, right?
Yeah.
So, all form is the door of sense of visible form. Okay. And here, just because something is form doesn't mean that it's the door of sense of visible form. You see? So we're saying, oh, just because something is form doesn't necessarily mean that it's the door of sense of visible form. Okay. So what if we stop and we slow down and we look at these different parts of these arguments, then when they come up later, we're not going to have to start and you're going to already know what they mean. Okay.
Mhm.
So as we move forward, I think it's very good that we slow down and pay attention to this, uh, so that when they come up in the next debate, you'll already understand it. You'll already know, and you'll see the flow. Okay. So this is how you would say it. You say, Kabake, Kabake, you just got through saying this. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So you'd
Yeah.
say, Kabake. Everybody could practice it. Kabake.
Yeah, but okay.
Yeah. And anyways, sorry, one. That's probably a good place to switch it back.
No, it's
Give you the
okay.
floor.
Keep jumping in time to time. This is good. We're just going through different aspects of it. And for me, what I find, what it was taking my attention right now is that Geshe and Adam, as the translators of this book, it's interesting the dynamic you guys decided to add in the English element, because it's true. It's good, I think, to understand both the dynamics happening in the Tibetan and the ones happening in English, which in a way they convey the same meaning. But if you are not familiar with one or the other, it could be, you could get lost if you're not familiar with these dynamics. But understanding them both will be great, because now I realize, for example, when we go here to the Kyabake, it's basically saying, it's basically saying that's the implication you say,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
here, you as the translators into the English, you decided to put forward for the audience what is the implication, not only say that
Yeah.
there is an implication, but okay, you're gonna show us what's the implication. And I love it that you do it in a kind of in English when they say it's like a theater play,
Yeah.
like you imagine the two characters debating with each other, like performing into a role play, and I like it. Now the thing I realized, it's a addition by the English. It made me realize that I was just paying attention to the English when I was making my notes.
Hmm.
So it was interesting to me to say, okay, now the Kachik person, the person who is usually wrong, now the Kachik person says something that is correct. Because
Hmm.
just because something is formed doesn't mean that it's the door of sense of visible form. This is correct. That's what I make the note. It was interesting.
Hmm.
Oh, so the Kachik person is not necessarily always wrong. Sometimes they may say something that is right, but maybe it's not the only thing they're gonna say. Then later they're gonna say something wrong.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the case in this play. But at the same time, we could argue that in the Tibetan, the Kachik never actually say that. The Kachik just implied that. And the hero, or I don't know how to call it,
Yeah.
the defender or something, is showing the Kachik what an implication is doing. So, anyways, in this case, this statement, at least we can focus on the statement. The statement is correct. Just because something is formed doesn't it mean that it is the sense of visible form. And now I'm just gonna call it the hero or the heroine if it's a woman.
Hmm.
But you just agree that this is the case, basically saying like that's exactly what you're saying. If you haven't realized the implication of your first statement,
Hmm.
what you are actually saying is that if something is formed, it means that it always has to be the door of sense of visible form. And
Two
now,
things.
yeah,
Um, do you see how in the second line here, but you just agreed that this is the case? Do you
uh-huh,
see how the word is italicized?
uh-huh,
That's because we want to place emphasis on that word. So you would say, but you just agreed that this is the case.
uh-huh,
You see?
okay.
And then can everybody tell me what would be the door of sense of visible form? Two things. I'm looking for two things. Anybody know? What would be the door of sense of visible form? Color and shade. Yeah. Thank you, Andreas. Yeah. So what you're saying is that just because something is formed doesn't necessarily mean that it's color and shade,
Mm.
right? Okay.
And now, if we were talking about the 12 ayatanas, form will have to be colors and shapes. So there could be a context, right? Where
Hmm.
form, it means colors and shapes, where form
Hmm.
is actually the door of sense of visible form. But that's why it was interesting to me realize what context are we talking about. And it's why I'm gonna show you real quick this. Geshe was very skillful to add this. Where is it? Here, just before in the book, if you have the actual book, just before we go into this set of debates, Geshe adds this footnote making a distinction that the word form could be used in different contexts. And these are the three he uses here, the 5 heaves, the 12 ayatanas, 18 categories. At this point, you may be wondering why? Why is it important to make this distinction? Now, when we get here, we realize why it's important to make this distinction. So, okay, the person says, okay, I disagree that sound is form. And just for my notes, I put like, okay, this is an example of what they say don't do in debate, that is just fighting and arguing just because you want to win. Because in a way, supposedly this is a very ridiculous statement. This one is not so ridiculous, But there are others that are like very like, come on, I can see that you just want to fight and argue and you don't care about logic. You just want to be right.
Hmm.
That's what we are not supposed to do. But then I realized, well, maybe because maybe this person, maybe the kachik can be also a hero, just playing to be wrong. So we all learn something. And maybe that's a good state of mind that can help us to be suspicious of the people, even the people that give us a hard time. I should listen to my own idea. Okay, anyways, let's keep going. The hero says, consider once again sound. It is two form. I never understand why two in English can mean very much or what. Why two in English is used to say it is actually form, but why two? Just because it's the way English works?
Oh,
I don't know.
one
Well,
one
it is
second.
okay. It is two form. Basically, it means yes, it is form. Why do you say that? Because it is matter. And then my own kiapa, my own necessity, I wrote in my notes is okay. So all matter must be form. In the five hip context, all matter has to be included in the category of form. And you see that in one way or the other, we are always playing with aspects of Chedrak, because if we start thinking like this, like matter, all matter must be form, means that matter is the uh, set and form is the subset of form. Or not even in the five hips context, that's actually not the case. It's more that to be one, it's to be the other. It's not set and subset here, but it's like to be one is to be the other. Because to be matter is to be form in the context of the five hips. Okay, we keep going. Book. The chicks say, I disagree that sound is matter. Okay, if you disagree, let's consider sound. Yes, it is matter. Why do you say that? Because it's something made of tiny physical particles. My own personal notes here were like, it's so interesting that thousands of years ago, they already knew that matter is made of tiny physical particles. I was like, how do they know that?
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
it's really interesting. And then,
made.
okay, the guys say, just because something is made of tiny physical particles doesn't mean it's matter. And the hero says, yes, it means that because something made of tiny physical particles is in fact the definition of matter. And now another thing I'm starting to realize is that definitions and synonyms, it's almost there is like a very deep connection between definitions and synonyms, because in both cases to be one means to be the other. Slightly different. I cannot say that definition and synonym is exactly the same, but I encourage you to think about what is the relationship between a definition and a synonym. A definition is kind of the explanation of what it means to be, and a synonym is another word that also represents the same idea that the definition is trying to explain, something like that.
Hmm.
Okay, then I agree to your original statement. Sound is the door of sense of visible form. Then just to myself, I say, no, that's incorrect. Okay. Suppose you do agree. Let's take sound again. It's not the door of sense of visible form because it's not that object which is perceived by the consciousness of the eye. And this is what I was telling you last time. You can start like using your inferential uh, perception or logic to deduce certain information from here. Like if you read this, you may be able to deduce that an object which is perceived by the consciousness of the eye is the definition of the door of sense of visible form.
Hmm.
Because if something is not the door of sense of visible form, because it's not that object which is perceived by the consciousness of the eye, it also means the opposite. If something is the object which is perceived by the consciousness of the eye, it must be the door of sense of visible form. It's just an exercise to have there, okay?
Hmm.
I disagree that sound is not that object which is perceived by the consciousness of the eye. Okay, let's consider sound again. It is not the object which is perceived by the consciousness of the eye because it's that object which is heard by the consciousness of the ear. Here, what I find interesting is like when we are talking about the consciousness of the eye, the word you translators use is perceived
Yeah.
versus seeing. But when you
Or
are talking about the consciousness of the ear, you use hear instead of perceived. But it's an
yeah,
interesting game because you can start to realize that each one of the consciousness has a way to perceive things, which
yeah.
is the senses.
Well, Sung here, Sungja,
Where oh yeah,
Bzung,
here. Uh-huh.
Bya.
Yeah.
Sungja means to experience,
Ah,
right?
okay.
So Geshe used perceived here because I would have used the word experience.
Uh-huh.
And this is one of the reasons that Geshe Michael goes back over my translations
Mhm.
and we'll work through which words to use. So Sungja means to experience. And then this Ninja means to hear or heard,
Yeah.
right? So Nien means to hear.
Mhm.
And then Ninja means heard.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. We go here. Okay. This is just more notes I did for myself. And the way that I share this with you so you get tools that maybe are helpful for you to understand to work with debates. So what I stop upon here, what I realize when I get to this section before is that I don't know very well what's the distinction about what's the meaning of the door of sense. It wasn't clear for me. It
Mhm.
was just until I started working through it that I realized that the doors of sense of the consciousness is the object that they perceive. It's kind of to know other ways to call things. I just didn't know what it means to be a door of sense of something. It was just strange. And I realized that, let's say, the door of sense of the eye consciousness is form. Well, visible form. The eye, the door of sense of ear consciousness is sound, and like that. So I had to stop to do that. The definition of the door of sense of visible form is that object which is perceived by the consciousness of the eye. When we're talking about the consciousness of the eye, there is a connection to the 12. Okay. And then you know this. And then I realized that it's important if we are talking in the context of the 12 or the 18, it's important to make a distinction between form and visible form, just so we understand if we are talking about the 5 heaps or the 12 or the 18. Well, I hope I'm making sense. But you can review this with a little bit more calm and share if you have questions. This presentation should be shared in the chat. If it's not, I'll share it again, but I think it's already there. So, in this table above, the object that the consciousness of the eye is perceiving is form. But in the context of the 5 heaps, we need to add the word visible. Visible form, or as Adam just said, is equivalent to say colors and shapes. Why? Because all visible form has to be colors and shapes. Can you think of something that is visible form that is not colors and shapes?
Mm.
I think no. So it's good to start like realizing how there are different ways to refer to the same object, because if you only say form in the context of 5 heaps, it will imply all physical matter. It will imply sound, taste, uh, touch, feelings. How do you call it? Phys- Touching sensations or tact, maybe?
Tactile.
Okay. In the context of the 12 and the 18, it's okay because it's assumed that if you say form in the context of this is the 18 datus. If you're talking in the 18 datus and you say form, okay, it's assumed you are talking about the eye consciousness door of sense. But now remember, we're in the 5 heaps context, so
Mm.
visible form. Book. Okay. Then I agree to your original statement. Sound is the door of sense of visible form. No, it's not. Why you say it's not? Because it's not that object which is perceived by the consciousness of the eye. Similar explanation. Okay. Now I disagree that sound is not that object which is perceived by the consciousness of the eye. Okay, I'll show you why it's not. Okay, show me why it's not. Because it is that object which is heard by the consciousness of the ear. Again, it was just interesting to me that using the word hear
Mhm.
makes emphasize that you are using a different sense power.
Oh, can we sorry, can we stop there for a second?
Mhm.
Uh yeah. So just for the recording, uh I wanted to kind of to go through maybe not individually each word, but um just Tsawarnduna, Drachen, Tsukikeche Mayimbata, Miksheki Sungja Mayimbecher, right? And then for the second line, it kind of sound like this. Matrupna, right? Drachen, Miksheki Sungja Mayimbata, Na Sheki Ninja Yimbecher. Yeah. So you're kind of getting an understanding for or a feeling for how it would sound. Okay. Thanks, Juan.
Okay. Uh, yeah, these are some other notes I made just to check with myself again. Like, if that is true for visible form, now let's check if it's true for sound. And I was working retroactively in this way. Sound is the object which is heard by the consciousness of the ear. The definition of the door of sense of hearable form is that object which is heard or perceived by the consciousness of the ear. So all these elements have been mentioned in the debate. So I was just trying to come up with my own conclusions, but working slowly and making notes. So sound, it is that object which is heard or perceived by the consciousness of the ear. So then sound must be the door of sense of hearable form. And you see what's the relationship?
Hmm.
The definition of the door of sense of visible form is that object which is perceived or seen by the consciousness of the eye. So what is the object that matches that definition? Colors and shapes or visible form. And here's when I start thinking, okay, what may be the relationship between definitions and synonyms? Because if colors and shapes can be the synonym of visible form, but at the same time, the definition of visible form is the object which is perceived or seen by the consciousness of the eye. And those two things, colors and shapes, and also visible form, are suitable for this definition.
Hmm.
So I start thinking about this, what's the relationship? And then later, understanding these relationships will help us to get
We have a
more into
whole,
mental pictures.
there's an entire chapter on definitions.
Hmm.
So we'll go into definitions quite deep.
Yeah. And then what I did, Adam, is like the other day I went to the run look section of the
Hmm.
book, as you have
Hmm.
suggested, and I realized how there is a lot of material we can use there. Because in the
Yeah.
run look section is like a very it's actually the debate stops for a little bit. They
Hmm.
just start giving you a lot of how you wanna call them, a lot of information or truths
Hmm.
that then you use for the debate. They just start telling you what are the definitions, what are the categories, what are the groups, what are like all the information you need in order to work with the debates is there in the run look
Hmm.
section.
Yeah.
So
When,
next
for instance,
session, I can share some of those ideas, but it's very long. That section is really long, many
mhm,
pages of
it
the run
is.
look.
Sometimes it's very short, depending
Mm,
on which chapter you're in. Maybe one, two, or three sections. This
mm,
one is pretty long. When I asked Geshe Michael if I should memorize this text, he said that I should just memorize the wrong Luke sections.
mm. Okay,
If
okay.
that's helpful to you.
So I think we should start because it's long. In at least this first run look section is long. Maybe not necessarily every single week, but on and on, like every week we can work with little pieces of it for 10 minutes, 15 minutes,
Yeah.
and also give it some variety to the
Hmm.
format.
We'll use Mushi Musum to go through it.
Okay. Okay. So almost finishing with this debate, it says, I disagree that sound is that object which is heard by the consciousness of the ear. I'm gonna show you why it actually is. Why? Because it is the door of sense of sound. And this is what I just showed you there, how by following the clues that they give you, you can come up yourself to this conclusion. So sound is the door sense of sound. For me, this was a little uncomfortable at first because I thought like, okay, so basically what they are saying is like sound is the object which is here by the consciousness of the ear. And that the object which is here by the consciousness of the ear is sound. No, is the door sense of sound. So to me, it was a little like it could seem almost redundant to say sound is the door of sense of sound. And I thought something may be wrong, but then I checked and no, yes, it's just a different way to say or to refer to the same thing. You can say sound or you can say the door sense of sound, and they are both sound. It's
Hmm.
like calling Adam Adam or calling Adam Adam Andrade.
Yeah.
So make a more long and complete name.
Uh-huh. It's
So
more
yeah,
specific.
but knowing these things will help you not to get so lost in the debate. Okay, so is sound the door of sense of hearing? What's more correct to say? Is it more correct to say that sound is the door of sense of hearing, or is it more correct to say that sound is the door of sense or sound? Or maybe they are both correct.
Mm.
Colors and shapes are the door sense of visible form, or visible form is the door sense of visible form. What's more correct to say? That's what I was wondering. So just so you know. Or the door of sense of seeing. What's more correct to say? Colors and shapes are the door sense of seeing, are the door sense of visible form, or what? But anyways, that's why I think it's so important to understand about synonyms because they all could be correct, and it just proved me why it's important to for me to really later understand very well synonyms and definitions. Okay, and we finish with this debate number 9. Then we will keep going with debate number 10. And yeah, but basically what I wanted to do today is just give you ideas
Mhm.
on how you yourself try to play with the debates. And as Adam has said, sometimes go through them really quickly, repeat the Tibetan, try to get into the flow. Sometimes work with them very slowly, questioning almost like every single word. be suspicious of every single statement. And if you combine these two things, I think you can get a lot from them. You can learn a lot from logic and also from content.
Hmm.
So I think that that should be it, because the next debate, although I had some, I think, oh, here, yeah, it stops here. Let me stop my share. We're almost done and we don't have time to really finish the next debate, but I just want to make sure. Yeah, okay, cool. Is there anything else you would like to add, Adam, in the sense
Yeah,
of, okay,
yeah. Yeah, so what we've been looking at after Juan has presented the debates are how we can apply Mushi Musum to look at what's been presented within the debates. I thought maybe for a few minutes today, we could go through a list of examples and I could ask you guys who are attending the classes whether or not these things are mushi or musum. Okay, so I'm going to give you a list of two things, and I want you guys to help me figure out if they are mushi or musum. Okay, shi means four, sum means three. So whether or not these things relate in three possible ways, or whether or not these things relate in four possible ways. What if I said vehicles, first group, and things with wheels? Vehicles and things with wheels. Okay.
mm,
So, what would be something that is both a vehicle and a thing with wheels?
mm,
Yeah,
a car.
yeah, a car, right? So, what's something that is a thing with wheels that is not a vehicle?
Mm, I don't know, maybe if I put some wheels on my guitar.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, I have a shopping cart or a guitar with wheels.
Mhm.
Yeah. So okay, now give me an example of something which is a vehicle, but something that doesn't have wheels.
Helicopter. Oh yeah, wagon. Oh no,
Yeah, helicopter,
boat.
airplane. Well, hold on. Yeah, some helicopters have wheels. Okay. What about a boat?
Some boats have wheels,
Some boats do have wheels nowadays. Yeah.
but some not. Some
Yeah,
not
but
also.
some not, right? So you guys see kind of how this is working. Now, let's go through another few examples just to
What
get
what about the Mahayana?
the greater vehicle. Yeah, the great vehicle. This is good. This is good. I like it. What about musical instruments and things that make sound? Okay. We need an example first of something that is a musical instrument and something that makes sound.
Guitar.
Yeah, a piano, a guitar, right? So, what's an example of something that is what's an example of something that makes a sound but isn't a musical instrument? What about like a school bell, right? It wouldn't be considered a musical instrument, but it makes sound. Or what about the sound of a woodpecker,
Mm.
right? Or the sound that the bat makes that Juan always laughs at. in the Mexican agave bat, right? Um, okay, what's an example of something that is a musical instrument, but um, what's an example of something that is not a musical instrument and it doesn't make sound? There, it doesn't make sound.
The
Not a
color
music.
red of an apple.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like the color red, or like a painting. A painting is a piece of art, right? Much in the way that musical instruments can be, music can be considered art, but it doesn't make a sound, right? Okay, so we're starting to get an understanding of how this is working, right? Um, so if I was to say, I'm going to try to trip you up here, okay? So what about mammals and pets? Mammals and pets. So I need an example of something that is both a mammal and a pet. A
Dog.
dog. Yeah, a dog. Great. A lion, right? But hold on. A lion could be a pet. I guess it could. Yeah, I've seen people with lions as pets. Um, so
I have an example, Adam.
yeah. This thing, it's it's pretty it's pretty
It's a
cute.
mammal,
Yeah, it's true actually.
and
Yeah.
maybe it can be a pet. I don't know.
I would have him as a pet, definitely. Um, um, keep him. Uh, yeah. Okay. So, what would be an example of something that is, let's say, something that is, let's say, something that's just a mammal, but more than likely isn't a pet? Yeah, like a whale gives birth, right? Live birth, right? What about an elephant, right? These things are mammals, but they're not considered pets, really. So, what's an example of something that is just a pet and it's not a mammal?
Oh,
No,
look,
a parrot. Yeah,
beautiful.
a bird. Yeah, a parrot. This is perfect.
It's a
Yeah, it's
parrot.
not, yeah, not a mammal, but it's a pet. Okay. So, what's an example of
Amazing.
something? Thank you so much, Maria. That was a perfect example. Yeah. Um, that's dokturungwa. That's something that you can point to demonstrate what it is. And it's done in debate sometimes. Doktorungwa. It means, what do you mean by the color blue? Well, this is what I mean by the color blue. And then you point at something blue. So we were looking for something that is not a mammal, but is a pet. And Maria very clearly said, Doktorungwa. This is what I mean. Okay. Um, thank you very much. Beautiful bird. Lovely bird. Parrot. Parakeet. Yeah. Okay. So what's an example of something that, yeah. What about something that's neither a mammal nor a pet?
A table.
Yeah, I guess you could say that, right? Okay. So I told you guys that good. Yeah, that's good, Juan. Uh, so I told you guys there was going to be, we did a few examples of musum, right? To begin with. What was this last example? Was it mushi or musum? Mammals and things that are pets. Is that mushi or musum? It is she, exactly. Yeah, it's four, right? So I was trying to trip you up. I did three examples of musum, and then we just did an example of mushi. Okay. So it should get your mind to start thinking about how we're going to compare different groups. And as we move on, we're going to start using these things to look at Buddhist ideas. Okay. And real world examples of things like how do nirvana, arhats, and totally enlightened Buddhas compare, right? Would they be mushi or musum? Okay, I'm going to ask everybody right now. What about arhats and totally enlightened Buddhas? How would we just use what we just learned to determine whether or not they were mushi or musum?
You will ask, are all Buddhas
Yeah,
arhats?
Nguyen has it. Yeah, Nguyen has it.
Are all arhats Buddhas?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, they have. Yeah. No, they're not Buddhas, but all Buddhas have to be arhats,
Mhm.
right?
And is
So,
there someone who
well,
is
hold
not
on.
none of those? Ah, okay.
Well, it depends on what school, right? There's second
Yes.
school, first school, right? Do you see what I'm
Mhm,
saying?
mhm.
So, within the first and second schools, because they're uh, considered Hinayana schools, their version of enlightenment is nirvana. Okay. So, you see, guys, how we're going to, and you can figure this out really fast because you could say some are and some are not. Excuse me. I'm going to show you guys some diagrams next time that'll help put it into perspective a little better. But I hope you see how we're going to use examples from real life, and then we're going to, once our mind is familiar with how to do it quickly, right? Then we're going to start looking at things that are a little bit harder to identify. Okay. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay.
So this Saturday, Adam, is gonna be your session?
No, not tomorrow. A week from now.
Not I this oh not tomorrow, I see. Not
The
tomorrow, but the
30th.
next week.
Yeah,
Okay.
on the 30th. Yeah, and
Okay.
I have to get my homework in to the translators a week before
Mm,
so that they can translate it and yeah, have it ready for everyone. So
okay. Cool. So I will just text in the chat and see if anybody wants to introduce themselves next session. Maybe
well,
two
Luna,
people, 5 minutes each or something. And then we just start and see if we like it. I think we will like it.
Maria, maybe your parakeet could introduce itself and give a 5 minute presentation about its life, its hobbies, things it's like, it likes to eat.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can do, Maria, you can do two presentations, one for the parrot, one for
Yeah.
you.
Does the parrot know how to talk? Can it say anything? No? I'm
Okay.
sure it can. We just have to have the karma to hear it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much to be here again. And then I will take some time also to do the recordings and put them into the YouTube channel. But for
Thanks,
those
Juan.
of you, just so you know, there is also a link to the Google Drive. If you want to watch the
Mm.
recordings before they are uploaded, you can access them there.
Yeah.
And thank you again to the translators. I hope we are doing a better job. At the beginning, I remember, and then in the middle, I forget. Let us know. And thank you to the table, the recording people. Thank you for spending the time.
Yeah.
So see you next week. And also remember, if you are interested on some special topics or questions, type them in the chat and we can use them to create content and materials. Okay. Have a great weekend. See you there if you go to the translation class tomorrow. And yeah, remember, why are we doing this? May good things happen soon and rejoice
Geshe.
for the ones that are happening now.
All right, guys. Bye-bye. Have a good day or good evening. Bye-bye.